Joe Siddall on the line. There is a lot on the line in general.
But that's why this series is so big. And we were saying that this was a big series.
Huge series. Hello, Joe.
Hello, gentlemen.
Am I nuts for taking this bet?
Who's nuts for taking this
All
bet?
depends on how you feel.
That's a great point. Points for Joe. That's a terrific point. All right, so, I mean...
what side would you be on?
I'm not a betting man.
He's not going to tell us.
Oh, not a betting man.
I don't make predictions. I just broadcast baseball games.
That a boy. That's actually good.
Schmott.
So, let me rephrase this.
Oh, yeah, keep trying.
How important is this series to this bet?
How important is this series to the bet?
I feel like the Jays are
I think every series, but I think everybody gets all bent out of shape or all bent up about the AL East divisional series and games. But I mean, guys, you could sweep Baltimore and then lose 3 to Cincinnati. That doesn't help you a whole lot. I mean, every game is big, and I know you have to win in your division. You have to beat teams in your division. But, I mean, if you lose a few in your division and then you go win a few out of your division and that team that just beat you loses a few, you know what I mean? Every game still, to me, means the same. I don't think it's that big a deal. We make a lot of it because it's a divisional game. It's a team that's chasing you. But ultimately, every game counts. And as we've said before, the games in April count just like the ones will late September.
I want to ask you this question because I think you're going to poo-poo it and I think it's important. But I'm going to ask it anyway. For me...
Poo-poo.
For me, sports don't build character, they reveal it. And for me, this is the first kind of adversity that the Jays are facing this year. And the only visions of adversity that I've seen from this particular group of Toronto Blue Jays didn't exactly prompt the greatest response last season. So going into yesterday, I was worried about the confidence of this team. Is this just 1 or 2 or 5 of 162, and I'm reading way too much into this, or can you see what I'm saying a little bit?
I wasn't here last year, but from what I understand, this team was very hurt last year and did not play with a lot of their key players for a lot of the season. So
correct.
That being said, and from what I understand what went on here last year, I would write that off. Things were built up for a great year last year, and the plan went totally awry. But I think this year is the team that was put together to perform, and they have been. But this hot streak that they just went through was exactly that. It was a hot streak, and that's what streaks are made of when teams just play incredible baseball, and that's what they did for about a month. If you really think they're going to play that good of baseball for the rest of the season, I think you're crazy. It just doesn't happen in this game. Not too many teams go wire to wire by firing on all cylinders with their hitting and their pitching and their defense and all aspects of the game. But I think in terms of confidence, your confidence gets shaken a little bit when you lose ball games because, to me, confidence comes with success. And as hitters, you gain confidence. As an individual and as a lineup collectively, you gain confidence as a hitter by having success. I mean, you can be hitting balls hard right at people and squaring things up, but if you're 0 for your last 12, you're not very confident going up to the plate. You're pretty ticked off. So, I mean, confidence comes from success. They were a very confident group this past month when they were playing well. And then now, obviously, you lose a little confidence. But are they being tested? Absolutely. But that's what you called that right. I think with sports, it does that. It certainly tests your character. And this will be a good test for them because they've hit a little dry spell after being real hot. But I'm sure anybody in that room would tell you that they knew they weren't going to play that kind of baseball for the rest of the season. It just doesn't usually happen.
No, I don't think that we're insinuating that.
No. Yeah. I completely agree. No. Joe Siddall here on Tim and Sid. He's getting ready for the Jays and Orioles at Camden Yards tonight. Waldo Jimenez, Drew Hutchison, the pitching matchup. Joe, what concerns you the most of the following two scenarios? Pitching that's struggling or bats that are struggling?
Pitching, because I think this team's going to hit. I think this lineup is pretty solid from top to bottom. Are they going to have their dry spells? Absolutely. They're in one right now. But I think in general, this team is made up of some pretty good hitters that should be fairly consistent throughout the course of the season. I think the pitching is still, it's as good as it's been, especially the starting pitching. I mean, there's still blips on the screen, and the only reason I say it is because even you start at the top with Burley and how unbelievable he has been. And, I mean, I've been saying all along, how is he going to do this all year? He hasn't come close to this throughout his career. We know what kind of pitcher he's usually going to be, what his numbers will look like at the end of the year. He's off to the best start ever, so hopefully he can ride that as long as possible. But, I mean, realistically, he's probably not going to stay this hot, right? And then RA's just been so up and down, and you're just not knowing what you're going to get from him. And that's a bit of an issue for me, too. And at his age, right, he's not getting any younger. So what if he does not come around? Then I think that's a big hole. I said at the beginning of the season, I think the Brandon Morrow issue was a key cog in this rotation, and clearly that didn't go so well with his injury. So Drew Hutchison, for me, is the guy that's stepping up right now, and he's stepping up, and he's also having some setbacks, but that's what you're going to expect from a young guy. I love his mentality. I think he's a gamer, and I think he can be that middle guy, say number 3 right now. Stroman steps in and doing what he's doing. I think Stroman's going to be a lot like Hutchison. I think they're both similar mentalities. I think they're gamers. But again, these are young guys that you're just not sure about. They're going to hit bumps in the road here early in their career, I think. I don't think they're just going to go and deal the rest of the season. And then the J-Hap factor. He's been good. He's been not so good. So for me, there's a lot of reasons for concern in terms of the inconsistencies. And I say that despite the starting rotation being one of the best in baseball, which is just kind of crazy to me because I probably got caught up in what the offense was doing. And when I heard like last week, all the numbers people were spitting out about the starting rotation, I was just amazed. So they're doing the job, but at the same time, they've had a pretty good run too. I'm not sure they're going to have to sustain this. And that to me is a bit of a concern.
We're just putting up Drew Hutchison's numbers on the television side of things: 4-4, 3.96 ERA, WHIP around 120. Super stat or meaningless number, and it goes to that consistency that you're talking about. Maybe it's just luck of the draw when it comes to where he's playing, but he's 1-3 in Toronto with an ERA of 8.72, and 3-1 on the road with an ERA of 2.03.
I call it meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think when you shake out at the end of the season, if there's really something glaring, then you can maybe say, but it's funny. It's almost like the Yari Dickey thing with the indoors and outdoors thing. It's something like that. I never really personally bought into that either because I think with Drew, it's just, I mean, when I watched him pitch the other day against the Cardinals, their last start, he just didn't pitch well. He left a lot of pitches up, and he wasn't sharp. And I mean, I don't think it really mattered where he was pitching that day. So why is he doing it at that ballpark? Hey, could it be a little mental that he's realizing those numbers, right? Everybody's reminding him of his numbers at home and how bad they are. So maybe he's going out there now and trying extra hard to be better. And we know what happens when a pitcher tries extra hard to make that nasty pitch is it usually flips out of your hand the wrong way and you leave it hanging. So, but I don't put a whole lot into it. I think Drew Hutchison is a good pitcher. He's a good young pitcher that is going to have his little hiccups, and I think seems to be to date that he's had most of them at home, but I wouldn't put a whole lot into it yet just here in early June.
Joe Siddall here on Tim and Sid. Jays and Orioles resume their series tonight. Hopefully the forecast is a little bit better in Baltimore. Are they calling for any rain tonight, Joe, or is it going to be all right?
We just got a serious storm came through here. It was ugly. It was almost like a tornado warning, I think.
Hey.
But things have cleared now, but I think it's kind of off and on all night. It didn't look like we were going to play last night, and they did, so hopefully there's a window.
Just be game. Just go to the bathtub. Just go to the bathtub, Joe.
Safety first.
Safety first. We're talking Hutchison. Obviously, he's going tonight. I'm curious, Joe, and if I'm reaching here, let me know. But with the Aaron Sanchez promotion to AAA this week, it's obvious the organization thinks this kid's going to be in the major leagues soon. When exactly, who knows? But it's coming. If I'm a kid like Drew Hutchison and I see that move, does that give me reason for pause?
No.
Okay.
No, Drew Hutchison's confident in his abilities. It's not like bringing up an Aaron Sanchez challenges him. If anything, if you look to the future, these guys are your centerpieces to your future. So I think if I'm Drew Hutchison, that's a great thing. And, hey, maybe we're one step closer to putting this nice young rotation together for the future. But, no, I think Drew's very confident in his abilities. He doesn't see that as – is that what you mean, like being threatened a little bit?
It would seem – and, again, I might be stretching here, but, there is a contingency plan potentially – being accelerated if Drew kind of continues to be a little up and down. That's the only place I'm going with it.
No, I don't see that at all. I wouldn't go there at all. I think they're very happy with the way Drew's pitching, and I am too, based on what I've seen. And like I said, he's not going to have a great outing every time, but he's the kind of guy that after his last outing, and I've talked to him, and he's made some adjustments in his bullpen session with Pete Walker, and he's going to try to institute those adjustments tonight, and hopefully we'll see if we see a difference.
Joe Siddall joining us from Baltimore. Speaking of pitching, I was looking at the numbers for the Baltimore Orioles, and 11 of their last 14 starters have allowed 2 or fewer runs, and the rotation in those 11 games has a 1.40 ERA. I guess just like the questions that surrounded the Jays during their run, is this sustainable for Baltimore? Because if it is, and it's all about pitching, as we know, this could be a team that could make a run here.
I think, to be honest with you, I think this is the team that probably concerns me the most. They look like they've got the most potential both pitching and hitting. They swing the bats very well, but the guy going tonight's probably he's the fifth right now, Jimenez. But you look at Tillman, Norris, Gosman, the guy we saw last night, Chen. I mean, that was a pretty nice arm we saw last night, that Gosman, and he's just up filling in right now for Gonzalez. So I don't know how he's going to go anywhere when Gonzalez comes back. Maybe they'll go with 6 guys. I don't know, but it's a pretty nice looking rotation, and these guys. Numbers aren't all going to jump out at you, but I see all of those guys as pretty darn good pitchers. So, I mean, if they put it together, which clearly they have been lately, I still think with this lineup can hit, and they'll probably hit even better than what they have to date. I mean, it's not a team that they're kind of middle, I think, towards the bottom scoring runs, but they do bop the ball a little bit, and they can slug it, and they'll get on base. So I think this is a team that is going to be dangerous if I had to pick anybody in the East right now.
Joe Siddall here on Tim and Sid, Orioles and Jays tonight here on the radio side and Sportsnet Ontario and all regions. Obviously, they're 10 games above 500. Things are still pretty good, regardless of the fact the bats are maybe sleeping a little bit and some guys might be getting roughed up. 10 games above 500 is 10 games above 500. However, Joe, I am an extremely negative individual.
However,
yes.
Always a however.
However,
it's like I am call Sir Mix-a-Lot, the big butt's coming.
There's a big butt coming, and I got one. The fan base at some point here, if they keep dropping a game, 2 games, 3 games, there's a panic button that is sitting there, and some may hit it earlier than they should. I ask you, what is the bar on hitting a panic button with this organization, considering where they've been in May and how clear they were soaring above everyone else? When would you start to be a little concerned?
Well, I think you got to give it at least through July there to the trade deadline, where teams really find out where they're at and where they're going, if they're going to be buying or selling. And you certainly hope this club keeps doing what they're doing and that they're in that buyer's mode and looking to add maybe an arm or whatever it might take. But I usually think the end of July is a good time because really when you still have 2 full months of the season, I mean, shoot, we've seen teams come from, say, 8 or 9 back in the month of September. So you're not really out of it. And the way this division is, it doesn't appear just yet. Anyway, I think Baltimore is going to be good, but I don't know that any team in this division has taken off and running with it. We talked about a month ago about what team, or not we, but I've heard it in baseball, what team in the AL East is going to pull away. And, well, nobody said the Toronto Blue Jays, and they did. So it's hard to predict. You don't know. And I would say at the end of July, you should have a very good idea. Now, talking the end of July, if they go to the end of July and they're in 4th place and they've dropped 15 of 20, then I think there's serious cause for concern.
It's a tough one to pin down.
It is, yeah. Absolutely.
Appreciate the time nonetheless. Stay dry, stay safe, and hopefully we'll get a game in tonight.
All right, guys. Always fun.
There is Joe Siddall.